I do need to.
Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday and the middle of the day, well, then Vince must be traveling again, and it's Warhammer. Hey, everyone. How you doing? Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler. What's going on, buddy? It's daylight. We can actually see your office there. You got some nice light coming in, natural light.
Oh, wild. Yeah. Yeah. Still got the propaganda in the background that is a little more visible in daylight. So, yep. Good to be here with you. We're going to
Absolutely.
be having a lot more of these hotel shows in the future.
Potentially, especially
We got,
this
we
month.
got,
There's like I gotta adjust the other screen. I fixed it now. Sorry, everybody. I had the other window messed up.
mm,
Um, but like, yeah, potentially. I'm sorry, everyone. My travel schedule is really crazy this month, so everybody's gonna have to put up with some hotel shows. Thank you to Tyler, especially for being flexible. I texted him last night at like 11:30 and was like, "Hey, what if we did this? I'll
mm,
have this hole in my schedule. Is this okay?" We're always gonna make sure there's a show, but you may have to put up with some times or something like that that are a little unorthodox. But thank you, everyone who's
yeah.
here and for sticking with it. I'll try to announce these farther in advance. It's just tough with something like this because, like, what if my airplane got delayed? What if, you know what I mean? Like, I literally just spent 6 hours flying or whatever and then landed and then came in and set up
Mm,
and hit Tyler and then we're here. But, anyways, who cares about all that crap? Today, we're going to talk about AOS news and we're going to talk about the FAQ, and it's going to be on the shorter side, shorter side show. It's a shorter side
nailed it.
show. There we go. Sally sells some news for about seashells down at the seashore. All right, so yeah, why don't we
hmm
get straight into the news? What's going on, buddy?
Richard, you're not wrong, man. I know. I'm very uncomfortable with this amount of daylight. And with this short show that Sally is having us share with all of you silly souls. Okay, here we go.
Nice.
Let's do Rumor Engine. I did not even look at the Rumor Engine, Vince. Man, I am just practically full-blown Tom at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful world. I mean, I probably have a ways to go before I reach Tom status.
Yeah.
That's a high bar.
Let me explain to everybody out there
But
what this is like. Okay. So here's the thing about doing a weekly show for 10 years. It is
yeah.
unbelievably crushing, as Tyler has found out, right? Like, he came in here, he was bright eyed and bushy
Oh
tailed.
my
He was like,
God.
he had
Yep.
ideas and he was like ready and raring to go.
Oh, book and guest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The problem
Yep.
is, you roll that boulder up the hill enough times, eventually it falls back down, and you're like, all right, we got to push this boulder up again. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it does. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to watch your journey through that. I'm back out on the other
I
side now.
know.
I'm excited again. That's see, I've come all the way through
Yeah.
and I'm come back out. Um,
Uh,
yeah.
I
So
promise.
let's.
I'll pick it up again. We'll get excited again with fourth edition.
Oh, of course.
We'll
Like
get this going
legitimately,
again.
this has fired up a huge amount of excitement for AOS. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
joking. Before Adepticon,
Yeah.
I think I was at probably a low point I've ever been at with AOS. I was just playing like
Yeah.
I was honestly more excited to play a game of Old World every weekend, like legitimately,
Mm,
right? Then they
yeah.
announced AOS 4, and I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and pretty much everything they've said so far has excited me, as we'll talk about today, because we'll get into it.
Mm,
And this is just like, I mean, the tank just went, it was like supercharged battery, just like, it was right back to full, and I'm like, yes, let's
nice.
go. I mean, certainly announcing
Yeah.
the Skaven refresh was not an insignificant part of that or whatever. So, anyways, here's the
Totally.
rumor engine. It's some horns or a piece of seaweed or something like an underground anemone
Mm-hmm.
mini. I want it to be horns. Last time we were shown elk horns, I was excited because I thought we were getting some kind of cool deer or elk, and I think deer and elk are like cool animals.
Mm,
It's my spirit animal. Is a deer, right? That was my spirit animal before
yeah.
Harry
You
Potter.
clearly don't live around deer.
I
They
do
they
live
they
around deer.
eat
They're everywhere.
everything.
They're
You
they're in
do?
my
Okay. They
backyard fairly
eating all. They
frequently.
eat plants and flower. Yeah. Okay.
I don't grow any of that
I've
crap.
been
What do I
trying to
care? I
figure out
just
how
have
to
a
feed an deer.
backyard.
That's fair. Uh,
What are they going to eat
so
in
what do
my
you?
backyard? Grass? Like, go nuts, man.
Uh, anyway, moving on. So, what do you think this is? Other than
I
you got a specific guess?
No, I don't. I hope it's a weird, cool
Not
monster
really.
elk, but it could be a sea
Yeah,
anemone.
yeah. All I see is Sylvaneth. That's my brain can't help it.
Sure.
Yeah. I used to make fun of you guys, like, oh, you'd have your go-tos and like, and then I get on the show and that's what you do. That's just what you do. It's like, oh yeah, that's Sylvaneth. Oh yeah, that's yeah. It's
We
lazy, but there it is.
Rumor engines are a Rorschach test, right? They're not actually
Yeah,
news. They're a Rorschach test for do we see what we want to see? I
right.
want to see a cool animal,
Exactly.
deer, elk creature or something like that. You want to see Sylvaneth, right?
Yeah,
Some IDK players like, no, it's clearly some kind of underwater piece of,
clearly.
coral or something, right? And we all see what we want, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the whole fun of rumor engines. Okay. So, I mean, look, I would,
Never never go full Tom. Brilliant.
yes,
Absolutely. Sorry.
absolutely. No, Relian has me, Relian's absolutely correct. Shout out to Relian, by the way. I don't know if you've seen him recently. We were talking a little bit about sort of
No.
health journey afterward. Relian's looking awesome. He's looking healthy. He's looking fit. Amazing. So I just wanted to congratulate him. He's looking great.
Oh,
And I'm
brilliant.
glad to hear that Forth
Yeah.
is maybe drawing him out of hibernation. You've been missed, sir. You've been missed at the events. We'd love to see you back at something. But yeah, man, I'd love to see.
Oh, he hasn't. We've got a lot of other people that are winning awards events. Like he can, maybe just a few events he can make it out to the United
Sure,
States. Just
he cleared
spread them
space.
out.
Other people have
Yeah,
been
clear some
honing in
space
their
for the rest of
game
us.
while he was retiring. Now he's got to come back. It's like Rocky and Rocky 3, right? He's got to come back out and
Right.
retrain, get the current club lying off the throne. Um, but yeah, I mean,
Mm.
ultimately, that's what I hope this thing is. But who knows? I think it'd be neat if we got more Sylvaneth.
Yep.
I think Sylvaneth is a very wide range where you can do a lot of amazing things. I think we haven't even begun to plumb the bottom of what that range is
Yeah.
capable of. So there we go. All
Yeah.
right. Hey, first time live from Italy. Well, that's
Good
very good to
deal.
hear. I'm going to Italy this year, so I'm excited about that. All right. First time I've ever been there.
Mm.
All right, let's keep going. What's next?
Yes, sir. Real quickly, Puppet Master Rich. Good name. Finally, yep, spells Missourian. Check out Game Night. NITE. We're Missourians. Sometimes spelling is hard. It's a thing. So yeah, great community. Gateway Gamers, amazing club in St. Louis, huge club. So check that out. What do we got here? Full new Liberators. All
New
right.
Libbies.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm an easy sell. I get the criticism. Like it's easy to complain about things in this world, Vince, but why not just love it when that's easy too? And I love the look of these new Liberators.
This is a much better
Somebody sent out a
design.
tweet with oh, it's so good. Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, yeah. What do you think?
I like him a lot. I don't understand the hole in the top of the shield that was for the Vindictor's spear.
Yeah.
It feels like that was a little
Right. Sure.
lazy.
Well,
I
we
mean,
had, yeah,
it looks
that's fair.
cool. Like the shield having that space at the top looks cool. It seems less functional
Yeah.
because it's there. Like I get it if it's meant to hold the spear and like you can, stab at you with my shield still in front of you. Like okay, that makes
Right.
sense. But like I've watched Troy or whatever that movie was with Brad Pitt where he was Achilles. Like that, you ever want to see some of the best like hand to
Oh,
hand spear fighting and stuff
such
like
a good
that.
movie.
Those fight scenes are
Yeah.
incredible. I went back and watched that recently, and I was just blown
Oh,
away by him again. But anyways, I'm not sure it's as
right.
useful with a
Yeah.
one-handed hammer. So
Sure.
here's the nice
Yeah.
comparison between all of them. I did grab that photo as well. And yes,
Oh,
they're
nice.
clearly very Vindictor like, same shoulder pad basically build and all of that, which is fine. Like I don't really care.
Yeah.
For people who are like, it's just basically the Vindictors. Okay, I want to tell you a story. When AOS came out, I bought a bunch of Liberators, super cheap. Because if you remember, Tyler, that
Mm.
initial box set, like people were breaking that up, selling out individual Libby, like the individual stuff on eBay, real cheap, right? And AOS wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't taken off when they initially released it, right? Like it wasn't big at first,
Right.
okay? Because we were in the dark times
Right.
of AOS 0.5, right? So I picked up
Yeah.
a ton of just Liberators on the Jeep, just Liberators, okay?
Mm.
Just Liberators. And you
Mm-hmm.
know what I did, Tyler? I made them into everything. They were everything. They were my prosecutors. They
Sure.
were my adjudicators. I literally just went and ordered the
Yeah.
bow hands, Okay, because that's all you needed was like the
Mm,
bow hands.
nice.
Stuck those on Liberators.
Right.
I ordered the wings or got feather wings or stuff like that. Stuck those on Liberators. My whole first Stormcast army was just
Yeah.
Liberators. Other the only thing I actually had the sculpts for were the Retributors. The because they were so much bigger and bulkier.
Mm,
So like the idea that
sure.
it's just
Yeah.
the same frame but like slightly different is not new. That's just Stormcast. So
Right.
there you go.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
one might say that's Space
At
Marines as
Stormcast,
well.
they're always going to be sure. Yeah, right. It's always going to be a Marmite faction to use a term that the show loves using over the years. And so is what it is. We do have a little bit of Fire Slayers pose going on with that middle one, with the image of the five. Did you say you got that image on the screen? I'm not looking
I
at the
have the
stream,
image of the three
but yeah, we got a
comparisons:
little bit of a.
original recipe and then the
Oh,
new
okay,
ones.
gotcha. Yeah, and they showed the full unit, or obviously, I mean, there's customization you can do. Another thing you mentioned to me, which I didn't know, is that the kit allows you to do normal heads. You don't have to do the helmets, which is awesome.
Correct.
But yeah, great unit. I dig it.
Yeah, they confirmed that you can do all blank unhelmeted heads for the whole unit, which is fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
cool. They confirmed sort of a mix of male and female liberators in the box, just like all the Stormcast will be going forward. So okay, great, good, everything I want to
Mm,
hear. Like they
yeah.
look good. It's good resculpt. Like great. The only question remains, Tyler, what Stormcast go?
Mm.
Because they have to cut some Stormcast.
Sure.
We've got to if we're resculpting part of this
No.
and we're launching AOS, some
Uh,
Stormcast gotta go. You gotta get it. You gotta get out of here, guys. You gotta go.
right.
So time will tell.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned the stripe down the middle of the helmet. Definitely dig that as well. That's a cool look. Yeah. We'll see. All right. So what else do we have with news? We've got Hire and Flood and Warbands,
Yes. So
Ogres and Wild. What's that about?
yeah, I don't have the picture for this one. I didn't have chance to grab it, but I can explain. So do you
Hmm.
remember that there was a Warcry thing called Pyre and Flood that they announced forever ago? Do you remember this?
Oh, is this the like water themed Lumineth warband
Yep.
and
And the
okay.
fire themed
Oh
Nighthaunt.
wow. All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those look pretty sweet. Okay.
They announced these forever ago. I forgot they existed or had assumed they came out or whatever, and I just hadn't noticed
Yeah.
until I literally
Yeah.
completely forgot about them until I was reading in the most recent Dawnbringers book because they feature both of those
Mm.
units in the Dawnbringer book.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I was like, wait a minute, do these things exist? What are these things? What are you talking about? Fiery Nighthaunt? What are these? And I had to
Right.
literally go look and then remember that kit, that box hadn't released yet. But now finally it will go on pre-order this Saturday. Um, so that's fine. The other thing that is being re-released, and this is actually really good news, I think, is this is the other one,
Mm.
the older kit, is the Wilder Corpse Hunters and the Ogre Maw Tribes like Gorgers or whatever that came in the bigger box set with
Yeah.
the thing that's
Mm-hmm.
re-releasing as well with just the war bands there. So I know a lot of people
Nice.
really like those Wilder Corpse Hunters. I think they do fill a pretty valid role in cities armies. So
Totally.
the fact that those will be more available is like a good thing. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. I played against 2x6 Gorgers last game at Adepticon AOS Champs. It was interesting. I mean, yeah, they don't survive very long, but they got some cool tricks. It'd be interesting to see what they do with them in the updated or the new edition coming out. But yeah,
Yeah.
kind of cool to see. Well, I remember I was talking about those two warbands. I dig the kind of hero pose of the river warband there. Some of them look a little wonky, but yeah, I absolutely love the Night Haunt. Very
Yep.
sweet.
Yep. So let me hit a few comments real quick here.
Okay.
Hold on, let me hit a few
Yeah.
comments here real quick. Okay, so surely just the old sculpts will be replaced, Tundrageist said. I don't know, Tundrageist. My honest answer is it's very possible we'll see actual things cut from the Stormcast range. It's incredibly bloated. One hopes that like at minimum they gut a bunch of heroes and just like use it as counts as. Like this dude with a stick is gone and doesn't have his
Mm.
own scroll anymore. Now he can just be this other guy with a stick, right? Like we have way too many heroes in Stormcast doing the same role. Just because a war scroll gets cut doesn't mean you can't use that fig, right? You just use it for whatever. Let's
Yeah.
see. Will they work as Ratcast? Absolutely. I have Vindictor Ratcast. These will work fine. It's no problem. I do not have any Liberator Ratcast because why would I?
Mm.
And then said no swords on the Liberators. Yeah, that's true. I don't think it matters. Just use your sword liberators and just they're liberators. It's not a problem. Like if you want sword liberators, give them swords. AOS isn't a WYSIWYG game.
Or
Or spears, give them
or
crossbows, give them
they're
anything, doesn't matter.
yeah.
Who cares? These are my
But like
liberators.
yeah.
They attack with the liberator profile. They have laser guns. Who
Right.
cares? And
Yeah.
then Lars said, I would very much want you guys to elaborate on what you think will be squatted with the new edition. In my opinion, it's the perfect time now with the clearing out of books in Old World. I mean, like, we could probably do a whole show just on guessing what will be squatted, is my honest answer. What I'll say is,
Mm.
like, stuff's going to get cut. And like this is going to be the time they do it, a big reset like this. People need to prepare themselves. I don't know anything, but I mean, I know logic, right? And my logic says if you're going to
Mm.
rewrite every war scroll, which we know they did, then part of that task, if I was the product manager in charge of this, which is what I do for a living normally, I would say first thing we're doing is we're going through and determining which one of these are getting cut, and we're not going to bother to remake them. That would be step one
Sure.
in my assignment to the particular
Let
people
me
tasked with working on this.
ask you. Okay, so we know we're getting, well, presumably yes, we're getting replacement prosecutors. We can probably still proxy with the old prosecutors. We can proxy with the old liberators. That's fine.
Sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
But are we
Most
going to
heroes
get
can be a different hero because it's just like dudes with sticks or swords or
Yeah.
something.
So do you think the same will happen? Because it looks like we're going to get, I had seen what looked to be a paladin unit that we're going to get with the 4th edition box, in the trailer, right? In the video
Yep.
that they showed, it looked like there was some kind of paladin unit. So if that happens, is it probably, do you think it'll be the same idea, right? Like retributors, decimators, could those be proxied
Sure.
with this new unit? Or do you
Yeah,
think
sure. These are my
those will be
ruination
cut?
guys. They
Yeah,
do this thing. I don't know. I really have no concept of
yeah,
like my honest hope with the
right on.
Stormcast is that we just gut the heroes. That's the thing that needs to get just
That's totally,
destroyed.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we need to cut 20 hero scrolls. Okay, I'm not even joking.
right.
Like that's very reasonable. If they cut
Well,
20 hero scrolls, there's basically 40 hero scrolls. That's too many.
yeah,
That is like way too
yeah.
many. There are a lot of armies with like 5 heroes. Okay.
Mm,
They have 40. 40. That is too high of a number. These number of
right.
hero scrolls is too darn high. Cut it. So like, as far as normal units go, I don't know, be reasonable. There's not a ton that needs to get cut. Wherever it's hard duplicated, you probably cut like I'm sure there's a few out there. But for the most part, I just want to see
Yeah.
heroes gutted in Stormcast. So
I have a hard time believing that the like sacrosanct chamber models are going to get cut. I mean, that was a big release in 2018 with 2nd edition.
it
So that
was.
would be interesting to me, like if they're going to get that serious, But I mean, I think you're right. That's the low-hanging fruit. Just whack a bunch of the heroes or
Yeah.
combine a bunch of the heroes, whatever.
This is the Relictor model. Like, fine,
Yeah,
right? Like, I don't
exactly.
need 7 levels of Relictors or whatever. It's not, just
Right.
condense them down. Like, it's not, everybody can still use all your figs. It's a Stormcast dude. It's just, or lady, right? You go to I'm
Yeah.
using dude generically here. It's, this is my
Yeah.
caster. This is my Incantor. Like, with my rat cast, I used the coolest sculpts that I thought were neat and then just called them whatever I wanted.
hmm
I've already been in this world, right? I grabbed what I thought was, I literally shopped
Yeah.
around, found that what I thought were the coolest looking Stormcast hero bodies that weren't like tremendously inappropriately sized. Like I didn't grab a guy on a giant mount and call it my Knight and Cantor on foot, right? Like, I mean, come on, be reasonable, right?
Sure.
But like I just grabbed the coolest
Yeah.
ones and I was like, I mean, my
Mhm.
my Skig himself, who's generally my Lord Relictor, right? He's
Mm.
High Marshal Helbrecht from the Space Marine line, so like it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. This is my Lord
sure.
Relictor. This guy right here. I just modified him accordingly. Like, come on, man. So, so
Yeah.
there you go. Okay.
Alrighty. Any other news?
I think that's all the news. Don't worry, we're gonna touch the latest AOS 4 developments on the other
Yeah.
side of the pick of the week and hobby time.
Yeah.
That's all our hard news because we want to talk about AOS 4 developments specifically, like rules wise, as part of the main show today. All right, so
Yep.
let's talk about some pick of the week. Tyler, what do you got there?
Yeah, dude. So just my usual go-to. It's not Season of War, but although now that I think about it, there was an amazing April Fool's video that Jordan and company put out that everybody's got to check out. It's the sweetest, cutest Season of War video ever. So highly recommend that. It's very short. It's like 8 or 9 minutes. Gotta check that out. Two battle reports. One with the Weird Cast. So Jeff. I never know how to say his last name. You nailed it one time apparently. The one time you said a last name right. Jeff Viscatus, something like that. With Weird Knobs, Jeff, they launched a new format for the battle reports, and so they're doing Smash and Bash in a few weeks, and they're using some weird fan-created project, something War Coda, for their missions. So yeah, it was a cool battle report. Enjoyed it. And what else? Jordan with Warp Fire Minis. He's doing a series of battle report challenges with another cool format. So I feel like that guy needs to get a lot more subscribers because he puts out amazing content, man. He's really sharp with how he thinks and plays the game. Good insights. Yeah, highly recommend it, especially if you're interested in competitive play. So there you
Nice.
go.
Very nice. Well, my pick is very simple. We haven't touched back on the old
Mm.
world recently. Don't worry, we're going to get back there. I promise we're going to do more old world shows. I'll even drag Tyler into an old world show at some point.
No,
But
not happening. It's boring. I told you it's boring. Prove me wrong.
that's
Brenda tried to get me to play a game. It hasn't happened yet.
well, that's how we're going to get you in. We'll have you. We'll do the show and we'll get you excited. Um, it's a lot of fun. But at any rate, for those of you who are thirsting for some old world content, our good buddy Chuck over at Strength Hammer just got together his full High Elf army. So for those longing for a return to the glory of the High Elves of Ulthuan, go check that out. It's linked down below along with everything Tyler talked about. So there we go. Nick Patrick said War Coda becoming the standard out here. It's in them streets. It's running them streets, Tyler. That's right. Look, everybody's bored of just 6 battle plans. Or 12 battle plans. They're basically playing the same 7 or 8 out of those 12, right? So we needed some new blood
Right.
in the
Yeah.
system. Battle plans are the blood. They're the grist in the mill of people who play a lot. So you want new things to play. I get that. That's why I've always said that they need one
TP,
GHB a
that
year,
was
but they need more battle plans per year, right? Like
battle
that's
plans.
yes.
Right.
We don't need a
Yeah.
whole new season. We just need
TP,
more battle plans.
that was 3. That was 3 TP. Like, settle down. That was only 3. Gitley Gaming, proving that Jordan isn't even the best Warhammer player in his family. I mean, look, Gitley, for longtime viewers, we all know who the best AOS player is in that family. And she's awesome. And we get to hear her voiceover a lot on Season of War. Anyway, yeah, the games don't lie. The wins don't lie. All right, moving on.
You're fine. All right, let's move past some pick of the week. Let's go into some hobby time. Tyler, I wanted to state something here for you that I didn't know if you had noticed. So let's go back to this picture of the Liberator. I'm going to put it back on screen. Okay?
Oh, God.
The reason I'm putting the Liberator back on screen, Tyler, is because the move to AOS 4 and our new Stormcast and the reforging and the launch of the Ruination Chamber and all of that has brought with it another change as well that Tom and I discussed sort of momentarily, but I haven't gotten a chance to discuss with you. And that is, we've switched our focus of sort of which subfaction is going to be our central paint scheme of the Stormcast, right? We went from the Hammers of Sigmar being everywhere, right? Basically being the golden boys, as it were, Now we're over here in the Hollowed Knights. A much better paint scheme, if you ask me. The silver is, and blue and gold is way more compelling, I think. But this also feels very much like the paint scheme you had been looking at. It's in that space.
Conspiracy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is unacceptable. All right, yep. Keep going.
So what that tells me, Tyler, is that GW itself, hashtag GW conspiracy, is trying to get you to paint your Stormcast for AOS 4 by by literally changing the entire default view of the Stormcast to the thing you like. I don't know how they could go any farther, Tyler, other than shipping you painted models. This is it. This is a sign. What could it be but the
exactly
hand of God?
What Matt Rose had in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, clearly. The powers that be are aligned against me. Oh, and it's the last show we did, there was a comment with like, get me to paint the Stormcast, and it had like 30 people liking. It's like, oh my God, this is getting out of control. I should have never talked about this publicly. I've got such a perfect excuse right now. I'm starting this new job. Not going to talk about it yet, but maybe at some point.
Sure.
And I'm going to be insanely busy. I've got all the excuses right now, Vince.
Uh-huh.
I'm lined up with excuses. And all of this is pushing in the other direction.
Yeah. You see, Tyler, life is full of really two kinds of people. People who make excuses and people who make things. You need to decide which one you want to be, okay? That's what I'm going to tell you.
Just hit me where it hurts.
Yeah.
Just hit me hard.
So,
got this whole identity about being a producer in the world and getting things done and you go there on me. Oh my God.
I'm just saying, I know your personal philosophy with your professional career. There's no reason you shouldn't hold the same thing true in your
same
private
standards.
Yes, exactly. Hold yourself to your standards, Tyler.
Yeah. There's nothing to do besides work and painting minis. Richard, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. You can only go to Alamo Draft House so many times.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree.
TBD.
Rule of Cool Wargaming said this is a huge ask by GW, Tyler. Don't let them down. Yeah, I agree. Don't forget, by the way, it's confirmed now. I was a little worried, Tyler. I hadn't told you.
Yeah.
Okay. But I was a little worried because there was a chance that Monty Sansevino, which I'm going to, was going to be on the same weekend as Holy Havoc. Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm completely distracted by these comments. Start over.
Okay. There was a chance that Monty Sansevino, the miniature painting show in Italy that I was going to go through for the first time this year, was going to be on the same weekend as Holy Havoc later in the year, in November or whatever. Okay. Now, I knew that this chance existed. They hadn't formally announced the dates for Monty yet. Okay. But I didn't want to tell you that because, I wanted you to feel the pressure of getting some stuff painted as you're my partner for it, right? I didn't want to destroy that until I knew anything. But I was worried because I was like, if that happens, then I can't go to Holy Havoc, obviously, and then I'm going to let Tyler down, and Tyler won't paint his things, and he'll fall into a depression and assumingly just slip into his painting, just slip onto a duvet or not duvet, sorry, that's a cover. What's the little thing you lounge on? One of those little lounging couches. I don't remember what they're called. And you'll just sip some absinthe and let the world pass away, right? As all of your motivation is drained away. But but instead, Tyler, guess what? Guess what else happened this week? They formally announced the dates for Monty Sansevino, and it does not overlap with Holy Havoc. We're good, baby. Lock it in.
Getting out of control.
Lock it in. It's happening.
Are we done with the Vince shows his true Skaven colors once again segment? Can we move on with our lives yet?
Sure.
Every goddamn time. I mean, nothing else needs. The other problem is one of my best friends, Jeff Nauman, is sitting over here. He's got kid, he's married. He's got all the things, and he's painting like 30 minutes a day, which you've been telling me for years. And he's painting a Stormcast army right now in a similar color scheme, and yet. I'm maintaining. It's. I don't know what to say at this point.
That's fine. All you gotta do is decide.
I'm d- I'm feeling defeated.
Don't feel defeated. Feel empowered. Feel motivated. Feel ready.
Empowered. Okay. Okay.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right. Well, we are we really doing a good job eating up time. So
Glory is
let's move
yours,
on.
Tyler. You can reach out and take it. Yes, indeed. My hobby time, I don't have anything to share because I'm on the road, but I have been continuing to work on
Sure.
that big giant knight. I'm really excited about how it's coming together. I'm
Mm.
hoping that I will have time this weekend to finish it up after I'm back from traveling for work. And I was like really pushing on it. Got a lot of footage recorded, so it's gonna, I think, make a really fun video. And
Nice.
like this night is obviously very Nurgle based, so I'm getting a lot of Nurgle time in, a lot of weathering and rusty, crusty sort of goodness. But you know,
Yeah.
there you go. So that's been my hobby time. All right, Tyler. With that, why don't we turn to the actual news? Now, here's how I want to structure this,
Okay.
Tyler. Let's hit the FAQs first. Okay, sound good?
Mm.
Because these
Mm-hmm.
are these are easy enough. By the way, everybody, I'm sure this text is like small on your screen. I apologize that I can't make it any bigger. Here it is. Let's start with the FAQs for Flesh Eater Quartz, shall we? And then we'll get into the AOS 4 stuff, everyone. Don't worry. So, but we'll go through this quickly. So, first of all, we got some clarifications on Battletome Flesh Eater Quartz. Can Crypt Guard actually bodyguard Ucharon if they like huddle around him and just kind of
All right.
get in there?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Yeah, if you could
Mm.
mathematically do it, you can do it. It's just really hard, right? But
Mm-hmm.
okay. Can Crypt Flayers pull people off of the actual throne if they surround the throne?
Boy,
And
that's cheeky. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah.
yeah, and the answer is yes. Yes, they can.
Yeah.
I don't like that answer. I'm gonna be honest. If you're garrisoned in a thing, like you're garrisoned in a thing, you shouldn't be
Mm.
able to just be like rocketed off the thing by somebody
All
who
right.
just like reaches up and grabs you. I mean, it's fine. I understand. It's stupid to have that those are garrisoned anyways, but like here we are.
Mm.
Um,
One thing I'm hoping they jettison into the sun is garrison rules.
oh boy, those couldn't go
But yeah.
fast enough. Just literally yeet, just yeet.
Yeah.
I like give KO some different way that they get in their boats. Let's take garrisoning and
Yeah.
just throw it into the sun. Yes, 100%,
Mm.
absolutely. Uh, can the Vargolf Courtier use the Victory Feast ability to retreat at the end of combat phase, even if there are no longer any enemies units in combat with it? No. So, nope. There you go.
Ooh.
Can't go away if you're not
Checks
fighting anybody,
out.
which makes sense. You can't retreat if
Yep.
there's no one to retreat from, so that's fine.
Mm.
Does the Scent of Blood heroic action allow a hero using it to move out of combat, assuming it moves farther than 3 inches? And the answer there is yes. This is in line with a lot of other things we've seen where, like, if you have weird out of phase movement and you can clear the 3-inch bar,
Yeah.
they'll let you move out of combat. It's fine. I kind of never liked any of these abilities. I don't love being able to break the
Mhm.
combat barrier outside of charging or retreating. Like, I really do feel like that should be kind of
Yeah.
the primary ways you get into combat, and these exceptions should be far more rare. But hey, maybe that's AOS 4.
Definitely.
The next one was a clarification I actually had was can you use the Scent of Blood if there are no enemy units that have any wounds allocated? Because people argued yes you could. You just kind of, and
Mm.
I very much argued when it initially came out that you could not. There was nobody. If there's nobody wounded, there's nowhere to go. I thought it was pretty clear.
Mm.
And the answer is no, you cannot. There has to be wounded people for you to do that. So that's cool. And
Mm.
does the Charnel Throne's ghoulish landmark force people to take battle shock tests even if they normally don't, specifically Ossiarch Bone Reapers? And the answer is yes. Eat it, OBR. Feeling
Yeah.
the bite of battle shock for the first time. Don't stand near the throne.
That famous scary ass bite of battle shock.
Yes.
Yep.
Hades Death God says, what's wrong with garrison rules? Everything. Nobody knows them is the answer. How do you get in? When can you move out? What's the bonuses? What's the penalties? Like, how far do you go? How far do you have to be deployed? What if there's people near it? It's so complicated in this huge set of rules that basically no one knows.
Yeah.
And like, Hades, maybe you know them all off the top of your head. Maybe you can quote me Bible and verse, but I guarantee you, like, 80%, 90% of the players I run into are like, wait, how does garrisoning work again? It's just so
Yeah.
complicated and dumb. That's the problem. Okay. Do you need to climb over a cadaverous barricade? And can it be smashed to rubble? Yes to both questions. Because it's a terrain feature, Tyler. Did you catch that? That when you set up the cadaverous barricade, it becomes a terrain feature?
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well, we haven't been seeing it show up too much to begin with, but that's good to know.
Yeah. I Tom used this to basically this because he saw it was terrain. He was like, "Well, I can exploit the heck out of this," and immediately did so. Of course, so he used it in a team game we
Of
were in,
course.
a team tournament.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Tom is always good for sniffing out broken things, and setting up a spell that becomes terrain is just jank left and
Yeah.
right. And then
Yeah.
finally, can the
Well,
Royal Decapitator use off with their head if they were slain earlier in the phase? No. Sad. Sad and unaligned. I think it should
disappointing.
just be a reality splitting
Yeah.
axe effect. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We established the arguably unrealistic precedent, but we've got precedent,
yeah.
so let's stick with it. Everybody knows that's always the right thing to do. Clearly, across the board.
Yeah. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I hate it.
I don't like it when things like this do work differently. Like, jokes aside, like, it's the same rule. It's you did wounds, roll a 5 up, they die, right? Like, I understand one is
Yeah.
coded as like the magical reality splitting axe. This is the Mighty Lord of Corn or whatever we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And one is coded as like just a dude who's pretty good at chopping off heads with a rusty blade, right? So I get it. They're sort of coded differently, but the mechanically they're the exact same things. I don't like them working differently. So there you go.
Always funny on the show, like all the inside jokes, and I catch myself saying things. I'm like, God, somebody, not that people even care or think about this, but like somebody who had no idea who we might be, like, oh, so he's an original constitutionalist. Everything is anything that's existing precedent.
Exactly.
It's like, anyway, I just find it.
Yes. Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
your
find that so funny.
interpretation of the rules. Yeah, are you an originalist? Yes, I go back. I have to go back to
Yes.
what they were thinking at and when they wrote AOS 1 in 2015 and consult
Yeah,
the
exactly.
law at the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Then some actual changes. Muster guard at the end of your movement phase. Each friendly courtier may spend. Well, I didn't know what the change here was. You can use this ability multiple
Hmm.
times as long as the required noble deeds points are available. What was the actual? That hero gains 1 noble deeds points each time an enemy model is slain by an attack made by that hero. Okay, cool. And then the blister skin, pious nobility, changed to friendly blister skin aberrants, gain the priest keyword, but they cannot cast spells and chant prayers in the same hero phase. This was just a clarification, I think, as far as I know. And
Mm,
then the chalice,
mm,
they clarified the timing on it for how it restores models. And check this out, Tyler, did you catch this? The chalice
mm.
literally invented a new phase of the game. The
For each
designer's
4+, the commanding
commentary.
player.
Yeah. Go ahead.
For each 4+, the commanding player can heal one wound allocated to one FAQ model within 12, or return one slain model from characteristic 1 to FAQ unit wholly within 12 of this endless spell. Designer note, the end of the turn is treated as a phase for the purposes of this ability. When you use this ability to return slain models to unit, the setup restrictions for returning slain models apply. Okay, that's wild. I totally missed that.
Got it.
All
Okay.
right,
I see.
excellent.
The original change was it stops returning serfs, beast flayers with multiple wounds for 2 to 3 wounds per single deed
Oh,
point.
right.
Cool. Got
Yeah.
it. That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I caught the change.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. So
Yeah.
easy enough. All in all, pretty good clarifications. Like, all fine with me. Look good with it. I didn't have any issues. If there are FEC players in the chat, I didn't see much in the way of anger about it. But they also didn't really publicize that these came out. So I don't even know if
Sure.
people noticed. I caught them sort of accidentally because somebody had mentioned them. Then
Yeah.
the Dawnbringers Book 4, Mad King Rises FAQ. And this,
Mm.
Tyler, very excited about this, okay? Because this actually made a very important changes. So the first one is on Sakar, on
Interesting.
the lady, on Vampire Snake Lady. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yep.
they kind of rewrote the way her serpentine agility works. So that unmodified rolls of 1, which is what clearly was intended originally, but that didn't actually work in the way that they wanted it to. So now it's just basically if an unmodified hit roll of 1 through 4 attacks her, it just auto fails. She can only be hit on an unmodified roll of 5+. Okay. So
Right.
she's very hard to hit, which is what they clearly intended with the original rules, but it didn't actually work that way given how they wrote it. So whatever, it's been fixed.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Importantly, Tyler, in her army of renown, you could not take her.
Mm.
Rules as
I was
written
hearing about that.
in the
Yeah.
book. It was
Yeah.
clearly her army. It was intended to be her army. The box was a setup for her army. Right? You bought her in the box with the things for that you can use in her army. But yet you couldn't
Yeah.
actually use her in the army. And I always believed that was just an oversight and an error because duh. Like this is
Sure.
one of those things that's just a giant duh. And so at any rate, it's fixed now. You can. She loses Legion of Blood
Yeah.
and she can be in her own personal army that was designed for her that she was meant to be in.
Right.
Good
Right.
stuff. Okay. And then the clarifications on the or updates, I guess, to the 2 banners where you can reroll the ward rolls of 1. And then importantly, Tyler, the other big changes here are the armies of renown. A lot of points changes here. So the Saruman Choir, which was the garbage one, went down 90 points to 540, which is actually a lot more interesting.
So can you go through?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go through what these were? Because spoilers. I told you at the start of the show. I still haven't looked at these. Tom and you reviewed the book, and I haven't gone back and looked at the regiments of renown. Yeah. What are these? I mean, just some broad strokes.
Yeah, of course. So basically, you're talking about in shortest terms, these are the 4 Mortarchs in their own personal retinue being able to jump around in all the death armies. Okay. That's really what's going on here. So the Saruman Choir is, what's her name? Lady Olander, and then, ghosts, like things you would imagine accompanying her, banshees and stuff like that, right? And in some of these cases, so like for the Scions of the Necropolis, for example, you were really getting like a really exceptional deal. Like you were getting basically a unit of the Arakai for free. Okay. Which
Arkai?
is, the Morghast Arkai, the flying death angels, right?
Okay, yeah.
You were getting a unit of 2 of them basically for free if you totaled up the points. That's pretty wild. Because those are not insignificant models, right? Those dudes are pretty good.
I think, so Signs of the Necropolis, is that the one with Arkan, where the Morghast Arkai can cancel out units from contesting?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So I did see that one in the battle report. All right. Yeah, that one looked good. And yeah, it looked pretty cheap originally.
Exactly. Both my picks really were, I mean, all of them had really interesting stuff going on. Like Neferata's one is the one where you can swap your battle tactic around. You can just be like, you pick your battle tactic at the start of the round. Neferata's one lets you literally be like, nope, just kidding. Haha, I meant this one instead that I actually completed. So and then the Sternite Garrison was the Manfred one. They were all honestly, everyone except the Saruman Choir was good. The Saruman Choir was just overpriced. Okay. In fact, I would say they were probably too good, and I'm really glad to see these point changes because basically what happened here is Olander's, who was kind of the bad one, went down 90 points, and then the rest of them all went up pretty much in what I think was the correct order. Like Manfred's went up 60, Neferata's went up 80, and and Archon's went up 90. And I like Archon's was so wildly undercosted. I mean, you're getting like a 200 plus point unit for free. You just were bringing a 2,200 point list if you took this. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I was thinking that these were different. So I'm actually a little familiar with these. Obviously, the Manfred one was showing up quite a bit. Like there were multiple lists at it. I mean, there are going to be a lot of lists at Adepticon. It's 170 players. But yeah, man, they were it was quite popular at Adepticon, the Manfred one. I hadn't been seeing a whole lot of the Arkan one. Maybe I've just missed it. But certainly on paper, it looked like it was going to be very competitive. So, but I do wonder on that one if it looks deceptive, looks better on paper than in reality.
It very well could
Maybe
be.
not though.
I think the Manfred one just has really more obvious immediate utility. Is frankly my answer. Like
Yes.
it just really
Yeah.
was strong in what it could do. I mean, it's teleport. Like it was basically teleporting things around the board in a really efficient way, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Manfred and 10 Graveguard.
yeah,
10 Graveguard, Manfred, 3 bats. You're either going to be teleporting 10 Graveguard or Manfred, and you're getting
yep,
+1 attack when you do it. And the Graveguard can essentially it's a teleport anywhere and auto charge 6. And yeah, it's basically just an auto charge from anywhere. So that you're gonna get them in, right? And if you can double somebody, you're gonna potentially blow up 2 units
yep.
because you're gonna be +1 attack, 31 attacks. Yeah, it was nuts.
Exactly. Exactly. So at any rate, I'm happy to see these points adjustments. Good changes. Like, yeah, like good. They needed to be brought
Yeah,
more in line with what these units and things were actually, sort of like capable of and doing, I
yeah,
guess is what I would say.
yeah,
So yeah, good change. No complaints from me. I'm
yeah,
messing around
yeah.
behind my laptop here because I have to plug something in. Okay.
I'm
Um,
actually moving away from the 20 Graveguard. I'm not going to have them next week, which I heard you're not going to be able to make it, which makes me sad, but I understand.
yeah.
To the Trash Clash in the Bluegrass, Polcastro, Tom, and I, and some others going to be at. Yeah, that unit's fascinating, man, in the sense that the unit has to have the limitations that they have, otherwise they would be completely busted, right? Like
Right.
if the 20 Graveguard didn't have with the white blades, the big blades, but they're so frustrating because they don't have a great delivery mechanism.
Yeah.
They're like the poster unit for the importance of a delivery mechanism. They move 4 inches. So many armies can just take them off. They're slow, and so you're just trying to roll a 9 up with the reroll. I found them to be the most challenging part of playing Soulblight. Anyway, it's just been kind of interesting with that unit.
100%. All right. Well, with that, let us now transition into what everybody's excited about. Let's talk about some AOS 4.0 news. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're starting. Am I in the right one? Yeah, there you go. Okay. We're going to start with this one. So, everybody, looking for your feedback, your thoughts as we get into this. We're going to talk about there's a couple cool articles that came out. First off, the priority roll. Now, this one will probably be a quicker discussion. The priority roll is still here, Tyler. It's here. It's here to stay.
Shocking. Yeah.
Okay.
Nah. Good. Yeah, good.
There is something minor to discuss here, which is the priority roll
Yeah.
sticking around, which, they were pretty full throated in their defense of it here. Okay. And I'm here for it. I do think this is a good mechanic.
Hmm.
I think the priority roll is a good mechanic. I think it creates moments of suspense and surprise, specifically suspense, really more than surprise, which are two very important elements in game design. I've talked about this before in videos.
Yeah.
And like it's a huge suspense moment. Okay. And I think it's really important because it keeps the game flowing in an interesting way. However, they're
Yeah.
messing around with it some, so it's still going to be whoever sets up their army first gets priority choice. Okay.
Hmm.
But we do have some changes then after that. So you make your priority roll, and the sort of die sequence is the same, right? In other words, like you roll off, and the winner gets to decide who has priority, and if
Hmm.
you tie, then basically the priority goes to the person who went first last round, so they don't get doubled, and so on and so forth, right? They have choice. So standard thing. That's just keeping it
Hmm.
to how it's always been. Our little graphic here is basically the way
Right.
it's always been. Okay. But here comes the important part. The balance between risk and
Yep.
reward has become much more finely tuned. Now, in matched play battle packs, when you choose to take a double turn, you give up your opportunity to pick a battle tactic for the turn. Okay, this has been much discussed. So basically, if you double, you don't get a battle tactic, meaning you theoretically score less, right? Theoretically. You might just fail battle
You're right.
tactics
Yeah,
in a
sure.
world where we don't know what battle tactics actually look like in the new edition.
Right.
So who knows how hard they are, what they are, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, from what we know, I mean, it's you certainly shut off an avenue of potential scoring. Okay.
Hmm.
What do you think of this? What do you think of this change? I'm interested for your thoughts.
So before getting into that, one thing that if you just read it according to what's stated here, then the question of whether you and I are playing
Mhm.
and we're in round 2 and we roll off and I win, and I make you take a double. You're not choosing to take the double. I make you take the double.
Yeah.
Do you give up the opportunity to pick a battle tactic?
No.
According to the sentence, no. It's
Right.
predicated on you choosing
You
and
choose.
only you choosing.
I believe
So
they put that word
seemingly
in there
that's how it would
very
have to be.
intentionally. Yes, because obviously it's not going to be.
Yeah.
They're like, look, they have a lot to prove with AOS 4, but one thing I trust is that Matt Rose is not a moron who would put a
Sure.
like, and you'd have to be pretty brain
Right.
dead to put a method in the game where you can just be like, where you can forcibly screw people over, right? Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it, I mean, initial responses to want to think it's going to be positive. In general, though, man, like we've been through this now 3 times already. This will be the 4th time. I'm always hesitant to, come out and have too strong of an opinion about anything until we see everything. I know that's the easy cop out, but with this, I still feel like we're missing so much information that it's hard to say. Uh, it does strike me as having the potential of being a thoughtful element to the whole package when we see the whole package.
Here's my only concern, and I've seen a couple people discuss this, and I do think there's some logic to this. I think this is a good mechanic. Okay, like theoretically. The idea that to take the double, you can't do another battle tactic because you're sort of hustling up your army to get this to go or whatever. Like we can narratively sit this however we want, right? But it's shutting off a venue of scoring. So like my issue is competitive players this will be something that they have the knowledge to balance out. Can I win the game versus can I not? Right?
Right.
And so they'll only take the double.
An all in.
Yeah.
Like an all in. Yeah. Yep.
They'll take the double if they believe that on the other side of the double is victory. Right?
Sure.
Is literally like I break the back of my opponent such that they cannot recover from it. Okay. And certainly I've been in that place. Usually the turn for this, by the way, I do think the major change of this rule is that amongst competitive players, you will almost never see somebody take a double from 1 into 2. Because you'd be insane.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost impossible to break someone's back with any army in 1 into 2. Now, 2 into 3.
Well, and of course, for the most part, competitive play, good play, I'd be curious if we had data on this. I'm sure GW does to some degree. I would think the percentage is it's lower that competitive players take that double in round 2, right?
Sure.
In my experience, most of the time, you're looking to give round 2 away. I mean, we've always talked about that. The money double is 2 into 3,
2 into
not
3.
Obviously 1 into 2.
That's what you want to.
But anyway, yeah.
Like my perfect world is sort of my perfect world is usually has been, depending on battle plan dependent, has been I'm able to give away the 1, right? I go at the bottom of 1. We maintain turn order into 2, right? So like win priority, give it away. This is ideal situation, right? Win priority, give the turn away. So it maintains. They go first and 2. I go second and 2. Then you win the priority again, and you roll the double into turn 3. Like that's usually the setup for actually like, because now they're out of position enough, it's harder going into turn 3 to sort of guard against the double. Normally in the early turn, the other player who took the top of 1, they can often keep themselves in pretty tight position and have their pieces still enough on the board that they can resist the double effectively, right? They can bulwark against it. Yeah. So at any rate, I don't know. There's a lot to say here on whether or not this will be good. My one concern is, does this actually move the needle for newer players who might not understand how powerful this is? Like for lower skill players, do they end up just taking it anyways and then having a bad time? I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, saying you can't score a thing when you tell somebody the point of the game is to score these things, most players will respond pretty rapidly to those kinds of incentives. So I do think it will be a pretty good bulwark up and down the skill level, but I do see some chance that this has a much more intense effect on competitive players versus sort of casual players. But time will tell. It's my only concern about this. I like the rule.
No, that's reasonable. Yeah, it's intriguing. like if I think about it in the context of the way that the game has been operating, at least more in the context of experienced competitive play, experienced match play, whatever you want to call it, I think it would make a meaningful difference, specifically with round three, where that is, yeah, maybe lessening those instances where you see a player go give away round two, right, and then take that round two and round three double, because there are still a fair number of games still with good players, experienced players, good lists, right, where that is the round that creates the inequity, creates the sort of the back-breaking moment that the other player's not able to recover from. Not all games, but that yeah, it tends to still dictate a lot of games, in my opinion. I don't know if you'd push back against that, but that's still been my experience to some degree. And I tend to try to play, as you know, tend to be oriented around playing an army that's designed to play 5 rounds. It's not like trying to break somebody's back in round three.
Right. Right. Absolutely agreed.
But yeah.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Sorry, just had to. I'm watching over here on my phone at the same time. So, we'll see. Hades said, I think that's the point. This edition is very much geared for hyper-competitive play while having modules to ease new players in. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I guess it depends on how it kind of all shakes out. I think they're certainly trying to tune it for multiple audiences depending on the battle packs. And it's going to be a question of how successful they are at that, right? And Matt
there can be so many other variables that we just don't know about.
Exactly. So we do have to always go into this with humility. I do like hear how Matt talks about like the skill expression in AOS is making tactical decisions in the face of uncertainty, which I do think that's very much what AOS is about. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about the big news. Big.
Yeah.
Big AOS 4 news. How building your army has changed in hashtag new AOS. All right. Building your army, Tyler. Okay. Let's talk about how this works for folks who haven't seen it yet. Here we go. Okay. So we've got some nice IDK there. It's a very pretty army. But let's talk about it. In the current edition, armies require at least 1 leader and a minimum of 3 battle line units, or 2 for 1,000-point games, along with other restrictions on behemoths, reinforcements, and so on. You can also slot your units into various battalions that confer bonuses, such as the ever-popular Battle Regiment, which allows you to deploy up to 9 units all at once. As the player who finishes setting up first is rewarded with the option to take the first turn, you have to balance low drops with list building flexibility, creating tension between picking exactly what you want and seizing the first turn tactical advantage. No, you don't. No, you don't. That is some marketing lying right there. What actually happens with the current list building is, if you are an army that can easily take everything you want in Battle Reg, then you're 1-drop all the time. Many armies have that luxury. Many others do not. And then you hope that you're playing somebody who's even worse off than you.
Yeah. Certainly this season has been, I'd say, no different than the standard approach with AOS. Over the years, an outsized percentage of lists have been 1 or 2 drops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just way outsized.
All right. Give me just a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There we go. Sorry, everybody. Apologize. Work never ends. Okay. At any rate, I think that's exactly right. I mean, you look back at the history of the game, and it's like, did you want to play some monster heavy stuff? Congratulations, you don't get to be 1-drop. Did your army work really well, fitting into the standard classical little weird pyramid of the battle reg? Congratulations, you get to decide priority every game, or sometimes it will be a roll of a dice because you'll meet you'll meet somebody else who can do the same thing. Okay, so I've really hated Battle Regiment a lot in the way it warped that choice, and I don't fault Battle Regiment for it. I know it sounds weird to say since I just said I hated it. I hated that it was so good when everything else was such a non-choice. Okay, like that's what bothered me. You understand what I mean, Tyler? Like if we had 5 other battalions that were presenting like actual real choice, like if you take this one, your entire army rerolls charges all game. Yeah, whoa.
Yep.
Right? Like, okay, that's a game changer, right? Like now I got to really think about, do I
Right.
want to do priority or do I want like universal charge rerolls? That's very powerful, right?
Yeah, extreme issue, great issues with the initial conditions around battalions. We talked a lot about when third edition came out that yeah, it was just a sour point of a lot of what they'd introduced.
Yep,
It was pretty evident early on.
absolutely. So, let's see. The new edition maintains these incentives of risk and reward. Yeah, okay. But takes a new route to emphasize flavor and flexibility. An army now comprises of one or more regiments. Every army has at least one regiment, and you can take a maximum of 5. Okay, cool. What's a regiment? Well, a regiment is led by a single hero, and it can include up to 3 other units, or 4 if it's your general. These regiments represent the retinues, warbands, and chosen warriors who will accompany your leader into battle. So every hero lists which units they can include in their regiment as part of their battle profile. Let's take Lumineth Realm Lords, for example. Or not. We can just take any other army, but that's fine. I guess we have to do LRL. A Venari Bannerblade, what a weird choice, okay, can include any Venari unit in their regiment, while an Alarith Stone Mage can be accompanied by Alarith units, along with Wardens, who form the common core of many Lumineth forces. Unique faction leaders like Archmage Teclis can be accompanied by any units from their faction. In rare cases, some powerful heroes can include other heroes in their regiment. For example, the Mighty Lord of Khorne, who could be accompanied by his gore-chosen heroes. This tends to result in armies that are much more thematic, with each hero being accompanied by the kinds of troops you would expect to see at their side. And every regiment is a drop, right? So there you go. Like, you put down your regiment as a drop. I read on Facebook today. So first of all, we should mention, this is very much like, this has some echoes of like Lord of the Rings. This has some echoes of Conquest. There's a couple other games that use this style of army buildings. This isn't like that crazy or weird. They're drawing on other sources here. I went into Facebook again to read this because I'm always curious how the sort of unwashed masses are responding to this. And
Sure.
I saw a bunch of people on Facebook being like, this is way too complicated. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? This couldn't be easier. How is this complicated? You take the hero, they say you can take any of these units, then you take up to 3 of those units. That's a regiment. Then you repeat. This is so much easier than most army building we've had in AOS. Other than just like when it was just take whatever, I guess. So, I mean, the other important part that they mention here in this article that's worth saying is obviously when you take the unit for your hero's regiment, you can choose to reinforce the unit, in which case you double its points cost and unit size. Okay. But they did say there's no more double reinforcing. That's it. You may no longer double reinforce units. I mean, otherwise, the restrictions
a tentative hallelujah on that.
Gone. Praise the Lord. Absolutely.
Yes.
As somebody who likes horde armies, like I like my Skaven and stuff, I'm still fine with like not doing 60-person clan rite units. By the way, we don't even know that really you can't do 60-person clan rite units. We assume that numbers will stay the same because they'll probably make the base unit size whatever comes in the box. But like, you know, it's whatever. Right. Like we don't know what facts aren't in evidence yet. They could always curveball us. But I'm great if there's no more 60 units in the game. Great. Good. Diminished Death Stars is good. Let's do it.
Yep.
So
that's part of the Platonic Warhammer guidelines events.
Yeah, they have said, CW Craner, they confirmed there's no more reinforcement points. They said right there. Otherwise, the restrictions of the current edition are gone. That's it. This is the rules. This is everything. They were very clear about it. Yes, no more 15 Skull Reapers, no more 60 zombies. Theoretically, again, all this is theoretically, assuming base unit sizes stay the same, which again could change. But this is great, and what it'll mean is that you will be making choices. Now, hold on. Wait, there's still a little bit more to this, though, Tyler. But like, if we just think about it in these terms, what it means is that one drop is basically dead, right? Because your one drop you'd have to fit your entire army in 5 units, and you would need a hero who had access to sort of everything you would want for a functional
Yeah.
army, right? That
Yeah.
would actually be the only way you could still be one drop. And then you would only have one hero, assuming they couldn't take other heroes in their regiment, which I'm guessing is related to like
Right.
particular, very powerful, like, you know, sort of super faction heroes that aren't necessarily like Archeon, but
Mm-hmm.
like I bet like I would that new Abraxia lady when she comes out, she's supposed to be like the lord of the swords of Archeon, right? She's sort of the
Oh,
head
yeah,
of the
yeah.
Varangard.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I'm willing to bet she can
Mm-hmm.
take Varangard, but probably a bunch of other like Chaos Lords are probably allowed in her thing or something, right? Because she is effectively a
Mm-hmm.
super Chaos Lord, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Like I
That'd be
mean,
interesting.
again, I don't know, but that would make sense to me logically. Um,
Hmm.
no, regiments don't need to be deployed near each other, Mike Cathcart, or at least they didn't say that. I assume it's still just standard deployment rules. You can put stuff wherever, but they go down as a
Right.
drop. So um, nothing we've seen here says that they would have to be deployed near each other. And again, like
Mm-hmm.
one drop seems like a terrible idea. So realistically, what this actually means is that every additional hero you want to include is another drop. That's for most
Yep.
armies. This is where that's going to tack, right? You, if
Yep.
you make it, if you want to include another hero, that's another drop. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're like in the full, and you remember you can only have 5 regiments, right? So if you want like 5 or 6 heroes,
Yeah.
then you're a minimum of sort of 5 drops. Again, assuming there's no hero in hero sort of thing available to you, right? Or depending on how that shakes out.
And so real quickly on that point, I mean, potentially that might mean, for example, if they're getting better, which they have been, about delineating, differentiating roles
Mm-hmm.
within a model range, within an army, and if they're getting better, continue to get better at, having battle plans where you need to have multiple different roles represented in an army, right? Then, yeah, that can lean into the need to have, maybe 3 heroes that are each representing a particular role, a particular form of differentiation as part of an overall army, aka mixed arms, combined arms, which, is also, in my opinion, part of the Platonic Warhammer guidelines. So I'm very excited about that piece of it, and what they might be able to do with this approach to incentivize some of those things.
Yeah. And like I think this is going to be really interesting as it plays out across some of the more unusual armies. So think like BCR or Sons of
Mm,
Bahamut or stuff like that, right? I think there are armies where this is going to get interesting. I think about this in
mm,
something like Iron Jaws, right? Where I don't have that. I like honestly, the core of my army is usually like a big hero and then 4 units. The problem is I
yeah.
need those other heroes. Okay, like I've
Mm,
got to have the war chanters or whatever, right? So what does
right.
that actually mean? How does that work out, right?
3
So
war chanters, apparently.
always
3,
I always
not
take 3
2.
war chanters. No, I always take 3 war chanters. I never take a caster. That's
Uh-huh.
why casters are dumb. Magic is stupid.
Oh.
But anyways, this is really interesting. But we're not totally done with the picture yet. There's a little
Mm,
bit more to this picture.
yeah.
So all the battlefield roles, battle line, behemoths, artillery are gone. Good, good. I don't miss you.
Mm,
But
mhm,
auxiliary units. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Auxiliary units let you pick units from your faction outside the confines of regiment. No limit to how many auxiliaries you can take, but there's still a cost. Each auxiliary unit is deployed one at a time as a single drop, and the player with the fewest auxiliaries on their roster gets 1
mm,
extra command point at the start of each battle round. So you get 5 extra command points. Okay?
mhm.
These are crucial resources in the new edition and scarcer than before. I want to read a thing here that's really, really important. I want to read this next
Wait, what
sentence.
did you just say? You get how many extra command points?
5 total over the course of the game.
You, oh, sure. Okay. All right. Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
because
Gotcha.
it says 1 at the start of each battle round. There are 5 battle
Yeah,
rounds,
yeah,
so yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's the math.
Cool.
But I want to read this because we might think that okay, so no big deal. But this next
Mm,
paragraph really excited me because this has been, Tyler, something I have said is a problem in the game forever. This is a third rail they
mm,
were way too happy to grab a hold of and let shock them. Okay, here we go. I want to read this verbatim because I think this is so important and it shows how smart Matt and his team are and the way they're designing AOS 4. Command points are a scarce resource in this edition. There is not a single war scroll or faction ability in the game that gives you additional command points.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay. Right now, we have many's of those. Okay. So
Sure.
I assume that would mean the same thing for like double and triple tapping commands and stuff like that. Like you use it once and you get to use it 3 times. I assume most of that goes away because it's basically giving you extra command points, right? So issuing commands for free is probably like all that stuff is probably gone, right? So if nothing is giving you command points and any kind of multi-issuing or free issuing is either vastly diminished or also gone, then you are talking about a much, much, much tighter ecosystem on your command points, right?
Right.
And so having 1 extra per battle round could be an extremely big deal, right? So there you go. And the point is, this is actually incredibly generous for army composition, because if you're sort of playing very narratively, if you just want to play what you want to play, you now really have the capability to build whatever army you want. Like if you're somebody, like in other words, you're not going to a tournament, you're not playing competitively, you just want to play the army you want to play. Okay? You want to have fun playing this game. Go nuts. Right. You can literally just take that. It's that combination of stuff. You just put a list together with points. That's it.
Right.
And you're done. Who cares how many auxiliary units you have, right? Like it's just if that's the thing you want to build, then you're good to go. You can build it. You can build whatever army you want, right? And it costs you that 1 command point, but that's basically the thing, right? We don't really know the whole command point picture yet. So again, how big of a deal that is, we'll have to see. Because it's always trying to balance those 2 against each other, right?
Right.
And so, obviously, Mark Andre Hool said, Free Gold Command Corps will break the game if they didn't change how it works. Well, Mark, they changed how every war scroll works. So I'm sure that I'm sure that particular group of weirdos is also included in that. But yeah, so that's just really interesting all over to me, because I saw some people like, I could just take an army of 12 skull cannons. It's like, well, yeah, okay, sure, if you want. I mean, good luck, I guess, is what I would say. You know what I mean? My problem in the history of AOS, the problem has very rarely been literal spam of the entire army of 1 unit. Okay? Like, what I mean by that is the army, the one of the good exceptions to this, like an exception to what I'm saying, is when Dragons came out for Stormcast. Because there you would have like literally 1 hero, right? The dragon boss, and then just like dragons. Just the rest of the list. But that's actually pretty rare. Most of the time what we're talking about when we talk about skew or spam was like people leaning heavily into 1 unit and running up the points, like running it up, double reinforcing it. So like 60 zombies, 60 zombies, 20 zombies, or something like that, right? Like that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
That kind of a spam.
Yeah. And they had too much design at times, like the sub-factions. Talked a lot about that over the years with 3rd edition. The sub-factions that would tell you, hey, pound the spam button for Blake Ice Revenants or for Dread Scythe Heritance, right? Kind of built into the nature of that particular sub-faction. So yeah, we have, anyway, that's a whole, we've talked a lot about, you know my opinions on spam, which at times are probably unreasonable. I just kind of from first principles, I'm not a big fan of it, but yeah, we don't have to go to that rabbit hole. You want to finish up the article here? We've got a couple more paragraphs that go into it.
I do. I very much do, buddy. I wasn't done yet, because I'm about to unroll a mission accomplished banner, Tyler, because
oh no.
No, because look, I won. This is it. This is me winning, okay?
Did you call it? Did you nail it?
This isn't called it. I requested this a long time ago, and then it happened. This is some. You need to. This is roll the DJ, call it, because all I do is win. Okay. No, here we go. Excellent. On top of your regiments, you'll also be picking your subfaction, which are now called battle formations. Subfactions, as we knew them, are dead, which have been refocused around the fighting style of an army rather than their specific background. This invites players to
Yeah.
mix and match battle formation with their favorite color scheme and any unique heroes they like. There is so much to unpack
Okay.
in that paragraph. That is
Wow. Yeah.
wild, the amount of information in those like 3 sentences. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what does this mean? Let's start from the end. Any unique heroes they like, okay? Unique heroes are no longer sub-faction locked. So now, if you have a unique
Yep.
hero and you want to take them in whatever mix, you can. No longer are they locked to hammers or to whatever. No longer do we
Yeah.
have 52 different Hammers of Sigmar Stormcast heroes and like one Hollowed Knights hero and nothing
Right.
for all the rest, right? Okay, great.
Yep.
Good start. Let's go to the next. Like, that's a huge deal on its own. Thank you. Bury that in the ground, okay? Next, we've divorcing this, like your favorite color scheme. It's a good thing. Like, you should have always been able to paint your dudes however you want. That's always been a thing in AOS. I think some people felt pressure to do otherwise. Stop that. Stop that. Paint your guys however you want, always and forever. That's just always going to be the case. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next one. The next one is called battle. Or the next thing is the battle formations piece, which have been refocused around the fighting style of an army. This is why I'm excited. Hades said exactly, Vince. You and all the comp players won. I don't know what that means. You'll have to unpack that for me, Hades. I don't know what that means. At any rate, what I had long said, Tyler, I've been on a rant for a long time about hating subfactions because I think they're too limited, and I hate when they're broken around like some very specific thing. This is the flying bug people subfaction. This is the other thing subfaction, which was always in my mind the wrong way to go. Right? What they always should have been based around are more general play styles. Do you want to be the go fast and hit them quick army? Do you want to be the mobile castle where you move out and try to hold ground and win through attrition? Do you want to be the castle up and shoot? Do you want to be the sort of run and gun, skirmish and fight army where you're constantly like trying to pull points away from people and then retreat? You can think of these as like general sort of paths to victory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, not every army has access to every one of these sorts of fighting styles or tactic groupings or whatever, right? That things to focus on, of course. Some have access to more than others, you know. But like I've always said that this is how they should have been, and what they should be doing is allowing you to emphasize a path to victory, a play style, a way you want it to work, and then you just find the pieces you like that you think are going to enter into that plan, right? So reading this was honestly to me the biggest thing I was most excited for in this whole article, because I don't want to see any more subfactions that are like, if you take flying bug people, they all get +8 inches movement. Stop it.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Amen. Yeah, we ran into a lot of problems with that. And it's just yeah, great. Anyway, yep. Yeah, no, that is pretty exciting. We'll have to see when we see the details, but it seems quite exciting. Yeah, I would be curious about pushback if anybody has some on that, but yeah.
Yep. Our battle formations, Branu said our battle formation is going to be generic, game-wide, or still locked inside factions, or both. Don't know. My guess is they're still probably inside factions, like inside individual armies, just because, like I said, not every army actually has access to the same ones, and they would want to do, like, how you actually implement, like, the engineering where the rubber meets the road of the thing I just said would vary per army, right? Like, this army's version of go forward, hit hard, be fast could be very different than Army A's could be different than Army B's, right? So I hope they're unique. Hades said, just that this edition feels smooth as a ball bearing and the soul is draining with every article. Hades, I completely disagree. That is crazy town, what you just said. I mean, hey, if that's your impression, that's okay, buddy. But you feel how you feel, but I do not agree at all. I think I'm seeing more and more variability here in general. Like, this is giving us back the stuff. All those ridiculous, hardcore, like, hard-locked army building rules, all my reinforcement restrictions, all the things that I hated. Can't have this many artillery. Can't have this many behemoths. That's all gone. Build your army how you want, right? That's great. That's opening up a world of possibilities for people, right? Now, obviously, a lot of the flavor is
Yeah.
going to come in when we see the specific armies and their rules and how all that's designed, right? But like as a basic thing, this is all very much exciting for me and what I hoped for. But again, you are free to feel however you feel. Okay. Um, yeah, like this was to me, this was the most exciting article they've done so far. But yet, Tyler, but yet we're not done. Oh my goodness, Tyler. The
Yeah.
end of this article. The important aspects of army building are also sticking around, including artifacts of power, called heroic traits, which used to be known as command traits, as well as spell lores, prayer lores, and the shiny new manifestation lores, which we'll have details on later.
Yeah.
And then heroic traits replace command traits operating in a similar manner, except for the fact that they can be given to any hero, not just your general. Hallelujah. Soup up anybody you want with the enhancement, not just your general. Tyler, we did it, buddy. We got there. Again, like that's
Yeah.
great. This is the thing I've always wanted. Like wonderful. Yes, A plus.
Really.
Great.
Very
Good.
simple but good change. Yeah. So what on earth is this manifestation lores? A friend of mine said maybe it's the way they're going to do summoning in the game, although that's another thing that I would personally love to see, either just unit or highly curtailed relative to obviously what it's become, which is nuts. This summoning slash recursion. But maybe it's the endless spells piece. Like they're gonna have a separate thing for endless spells. I don't know. Do you have any guesses on what the heck that might be?
I mean, sure. So you have a spell lore, right? That's for your wizards to cast their spells. You have a prayer
Mm-hmm.
lore, which is like for your priests to do their prayers. And then you have a
Prayers, right? And
manifestation
then
lore that manifests something. I have a guess,
yeah.
Tyler. What generally gets manifested onto the battlefield and then sticks
Yeah.
around?
Something maybe invocations and endless spells in this game.
Yeah, I mean that would be my guess, right? Like it's sort of the only
Yeah.
thing left, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
probably how endless spells are governed now.
Yeah.
Like my guess is that these are like your endless army, your faction endless spells if you have them or whatever or something like
Mm.
that. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see, but that would be my guess,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Which okay, I mean, I guess that if we're right, then endless spells are sticking around. But okay, I guess yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, do what? Where does it say? Manifestation lore can be used by your army's life coaches. Yeah, exactly. You got to manifest the world you want to see. I want to manifest victory. That's the lore I'm choosing. I'm going to choose the lore
Yeah.
of winning. Um,
Mm.
but you know, I mean, I guess we'll see. Are we finally doing away? Tundra guy said, "Are we finally doing away with faction-specific terrain?" I didn't see it mentioned. They haven't mentioned it yet. We don't know. Um,
Yeah.
could
I
be.
don't
We
know.
don't know how faction terrain is. It'd be another thing that I wouldn't be sad if it went away, but I doubt they're going to make it go away. It feels like people spent money on those things. They don't generally want to throw all of those in the trash that quick. But how
Sure.
they work could change. But Tyler, what's your like?
Yeah.
I mean, we got through the whole article. There's so much in
Yeah,
this. This
man.
one was very exciting.
I know.
What do you think about all this? I've been rambling for a while. I want to get your take.
Yeah, so of all of the articles, this is the one where, I mean, again, like prefer to just see everything before, but we're on a show, we're supposed to give our thoughts, so I feel the most potential to be net positive about all of this than anything else that I've seen, right? This seems to be playing in a lot of the spaces that I love personally. For example, we're going down to smaller units, seemingly, right? We're potentially seemingly going down, if we have smaller units, we're going to have more units potentially. More small, we've got an acronym for that in the community. We're going to community multiple small units. That could have the consequence of having more interesting trading that happens in games. So yeah, that gets me really exciting. I think, yeah, MSU has tended to be one of those right elements of the game that can lead to more dynamic, interesting gameplay. But I know there's some biases within that. So what else we've got? Yeah, the command point thing, it seems like a cool soft incentive. Um, clearly that seems like that's going to be quite impactful with how much they've emphasized it here, right, man? And how much they're constraining that resource, a scarce resource in this edition. So I like that. The Yeah, generally, I still have some concerns and uncertainty about what kind of situation are we going to get into as far as spam, which I know, it's more nuanced conversation than just saying spam, spam, spam,
Sure.
right? Like it's a little more nuanced than that. Um, a lot of people are excited about like an all dual army, name your favorite thing, but there's many different ways, right, that you can push against that. And ultimately, I don't know, like when does that ultimately matter? I guess maybe it matters more in my mind from the standpoint of what do we see in a competitive ecosystem rather than, outside of that, play whatever the heck you want, from the standpoint of wanting to promote diversity, variety, and so on and so forth, optimizing for variety. Yeah. So I hope we don't see a huge amount of spam coming out in that context. Do you have any thoughts on that piece? And
Yeah,
like where you are in terms of how much concern you might have or don't have about that coming out of this, what we know so far with the design of this army composition?
of course I have to be somewhat at least partially concerned about it, right? It's a risk. We have to list it under the
Yeah.
downside risk category right now. I mean, that's just the simple truth of the
Yeah.
matter. Yeah. Because the reality is we don't know how, like, we don't have the full command point picture. So like, how many do you get? What are the other situations where what numbers do you get? When you get more or less, blah blah blah. Like we don't know that picture.
Right.
So how much does this +1 incentive matter, right? How much do drops actually matter in this edition? We know how priority works and stuff like that, but if no one's really taking the double, does just being first matter that much?
Sure.
I don't
Right.
know. Like, it depends on some of the war scrolls and how they're rewritten. Like, are there armies where just going crazy spam skew because the way the scrolls
Yeah.
are written actually ends up being like the right, quote unquote, right choice, right? All of these
Yeah.
things are potential risks, and we'll need to see more of the puzzle before we can
Right.
evaluate. Like, I'll say conceptually, I like this because it seems like it's playing to both masters at once. What I mean by that is, like, on one
Mm.
hand, it's saying here's the way that, like, the competitive folks will build their army to, and it should look like an army with like a hero in their retinue, and they'll be in a drop war of like exactly how many heroes you can balance out and
Right.
trying to get down versus the sort of utility and capabilities you want, right? Like, you can imagine a world
Yeah.
where the units are very simple in what they do and they only kind of turn on when their associated heroes are around them. Like with scrolls rewritten, you could imagine they lean more into sort of power pairing type of situations, or
Yeah,
power
totally.
regimenting, sort of,
Right.
where it's like
Right.
the units just kind of, most units are kind of just average, but if they have their hero around, they can punch above their weight. If that's the
On
case,
that point, that was the one thing that I always loved actually about we talked about Stormcast on an episode quite a long time ago, and about how the Stormcast Battletome was one of the more modular Battletomes. Now, they had a ton of war scrolls you could throw out in the, throw away, but it just allowed for, right, that exactly what you're saying, right? I'm going to take this module, this module, this module. They had some power pairing, synergy, combinations going on with certain war scrolls. But yes, long way of saying, I think that could be really exciting as an approach.
I agree. And so, like, if they lean more into the power pairing, where just frankly spamming a single average unit with like one hero running around the
Yeah.
board just actually isn't very effective. If scrolls are just generally written where they need their hero friends around to be
Mhm.
effective, then you really kill spam hardcore as a conception. But you got to watch that, because depending on
Right.
how much you go in that direction, then the super casual person who just wants to have the fun army might feel a little too constrained, right? So it is definitely a careful
Sure.
balancing act. Theoretically, you could
Yeah.
get there to the nobody would spam. It might be actually too much incentive the other direction, so it could still swing with facts and evidence we don't have. Anthony
Yeah.
La Selva says no more one drop deploy. Everything in your regiment, each regiment goes down as a single drop. So one drop is
Mm.
probably out of the question, but I could see armies that might end up being 2, 3, 4. My guess is most will be in the 2, 3, 4 zone, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere like that. I don't know. We'll have to see. Can you get away with having just 2 heroes in your army? That's a big question of, like, again, how are the war scrolls written? How much do you need the heroes for their utility? How much do you need them to do the things versus what your units are doing? That's that's going to be the ultimate arbiter of that kind of thing. Did they
Hmm.
confirm if priority still goes off drops? Yes, they did. It still goes off lowest drops as far as first priority. Yeah, so there you go. Did they define what an auxiliary unit is? Yes, an auxiliary unit is anything outside of a regiment. So you just want, you took these three heroes, and these three heroes can have units, these types of units in their regiment, but then you decide you also want something else, right? Like you want this other thing. So you
Yeah.
only take three of the Lumineth guys, like to go back up to their example, right? Like imagine, where's it at? Here we go. Like imagine you just took a bunch of, I'm guessing, like the Venari Sonari dudes who probably just have like the Venari Sonari stuff as the things they can take, right? But you also
Mm.
want a stone mountain guy, the big mountain with the hammers dude, the Alarith dude, right? Okay, if you just choose the Alarith mountain guy alone, then he's an auxiliary unit. That's what that is. Okay.
Mm.
Norris Black says, so you could, in theory, have an all-hero army. Yeah, in theory. But again, like, is that actually worth anything? Like, it's cool that that's a possibility because, yeah, you could just take all heroes. So you can do that. You could take
Mm-hmm.
all monsters. You could just go nuts and have a complete auxiliary army full of wandering monsters. Like, that seems to be a capability with this. Now we should state this is a module, right? That army building, this is
Mm.
a module. They could change this by replacing the army building module in the future, in future publications. That's why they wanted to make this modular. So they could put different modules out with different restrictions, or you
Yeah.
can only include these things or whatever, right? So um, it's like they will have the ability to move this over time without changing anything in the core rules. This is a modular component, and this is why they made this modular.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. And then Bruce Stewart said, can you comment if you think this will decrease GW's scroll balancing FAQs all the time? They probably hate doing this and spending so much money updating all the time. I mean, I don't know. I think they'll still do a battle scroll once every 3 months. It's a question of just what will we actually change, right? What will get changed? That's my answer. If you could imagine a once every 3 months battle scroll with just smaller changes or less changes or something like that. All right. Yeah. So there you go. I don't know.
Yeah,
Overall,
fascinating, man.
I
Yeah.
really interesting. But again,
Yeah.
we only have part of the picture. But I mean, hey, I'm interested.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's exciting. Just I mean, it's causing so many thoughts to go off in my head about, thinking about the different levers of game design, rules design, and what like the choices that they're making. Yeah, I'm really excited to have conversations with Tom and you about and others about just analyzing all this stuff and the choices that they've made and trying to reverse engineer why they made those choices. Like, it's always intriguing to try to answer the why questions with stuff like this. What are they, and they're getting better at telling us, right? Their answers to the why. Like how much are they? I always talk about first principles, right? What are their priors? What are the first principles? What's their intent? Is one of the first principles here that they're deliberately trying to incentivize, promote variety broadly defined. I've always talked with you about how one thing that's frustrating in the history of AOS is I felt like too many times I'll see armies on the table that, well, broadly defined, don't look sufficiently like an army, but they more specifically, they don't look like enough, they don't reflect enough of the model range of that army, right?
Yeah.
Like when I see an Ideneth army that's all eels, mostly all eels or sharks, I get it, it's cool, it's thematic, it's nice that exists, but that's not, in my mind, the main thing that you should be incentivizing from a company standpoint or from an ecosystem standpoint. You want to be incentivizing like 20 Reavers and 20 Thralls and 6 eels and a
Sure.
turtle and right, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like what are and there's biases, there's inherent subjectivity in what you establish as those first principles, but maybe as that last note, like if you have any thoughts on what you're feeling from this article or just in general about what might be some of what they're going after as far as why or first principles in relation to army composition.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're largely aligned with kind of what your thinking is there. So,
Mm,
just real quick, Charles Holm said no mention of allies. I really think they'll just kill allies as completely. I think we'll just have regiments of renown or something like that. That
regiments
would be my
renown.
guess. Yeah, I mean, like I think they've been
Yeah,
telegraphing that. And there's
yeah,
probably weird exceptions for stuff like chaos and things like that, but who knows? Um,
yeah.
my general feeling is I think what they would like to see is for armies to have a sort of silhouette, and for the fun and competitive way to play a general army is kind of what you're talking about, where you have a
Yeah.
panoply of their kits that they have put long hours into creating on the table in a
Yeah.
sort of fun experience where it looks like a cool army, right? I mean, I think that that's
Yeah.
probably if I was the rules writer for this game, that would certainly be a first principle of mine, right? But
Yeah.
to still allow people who want to play suboptimally in some tolerable way to have the thing they want,
Yeah.
where they can do the army of all, Vengorian lords or terrorgeists or
Right.
whatever, right? Like, and so it's
Yeah.
always a bit tough to wrangle those two, to walk the tightrope between them. But I think
Mm.
certainly their first, like, if you operate from a first principle of like the competitive build should be a non-skewy thing where people have to go out and buy a ton of kits and then
Right.
end up not using them, and it just kind of sits on the shelf and stuff like that. I don't think that breeds long-term uh, retention. Like, I think customer retention and customer
Mm.
onboarding would probably be a major focus of mine if I was in sort of product management of this legacy product, right? I'd want to keep people invested
Mm.
in the hobby. And I think you do that by having most of the things that they've bought be broadly useful in different combinations, right? I
Yeah.
think that's a
Yeah.
pretty simple thing to do. And that also
Yeah.
means that has the secondary benefit of, as you go over time, if you introduce new units, a larger number of people are incentivized to go out and pick up a kit or two, right, to add to their army,
Right.
because they can continue to have that varied. Um, so I think that's like, I think it makes both thematic sense, as it were,
Mm.
right? But it
Mm-hmm.
also makes business sense because
Yeah.
customers feel happy. They get to use most of their figs. Things stop on the treadmill or swing or the pendulum, whatever you want to call it, of like, it's crap,
Mm.
it's great, it's crap, it's great, it's crap, it's great, right? Nobody likes that, right? And
Right.
so if things are just kind of more broadly good, I guess, like in some way where you can combine them
Mm.
in different ways and have different profiles that all generally look like an army. It's like some of these dudes and some of these dudes and some of these dudes in different numbers, right?
Yeah.
Then that's a much more positive experience for both the players, and it's beneficial to them as a company. So, like,
Yeah.
shouldn't that be the first principle if everybody's winning like that? I guess would be my answer.
Mm.
So, time will tell, because I really do feel that, like, all of these incentives around army construction and stuff like that matter, but
Mm.
ultimately it will, like, where the rubber meets the road will be the scrolls themselves, right? Will be whatever
Yeah.
happens with the armies themselves. And so, that's obviously the big piece we've seen basically nothing of. And it's also the biggest part
Yeah.
of the
That, and of
challenge.
course, how are we winning the game?
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
battle plans, and right, because we talked a lot of, we've been in this somewhat strange reality where I think a lot of folks have felt that we've gone too far to where you have the generally race to 28 points that does not involve as much killing as maybe it should have in a in a fantasy game, or just in a war game, right? That's a whole other discussion. I think there's a lot of nuance to that, but certainly there are some armies, number of lists that have been able to play that game very well, where it just often feels, like you look at the set of battle tactics that we've had, not many of them are kill oriented for this season's battle tactics. There's a little bit on magic, like, okay, you gotta kill something within the spell or spell. Um, but right, you could easily imagine a set of battle tactics that have more killing in them.
Sure.
So yeah, it's an interesting balance of of these different factors. Yeah, it'll be cool. And I think last thought that comes to mind with all this is, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. We don't have to do it now, but I think all three of us would agree, and the community would agree, that the game has just become wildly overcomplicated.
Sure.
We've repeated time and time again, just the complexity, the exception cases, the exceptions of the exception of the exception, 6-inch pile-in, 6-inch activation. Just, it's out of control in my mind. Like, what are the ways in which that process could repeat with fourth edition? Kind of looking at that based on when we see the whole picture, like, what are the things to flag early on, right? In terms of the potential of just going down. And you've talked over the years about how that's an inherent part in some ways of the cycle, right? Of the product cycle. But I don't know if you get what I'm saying. I'm wondering to what degree you feel like you have a this is one of my rants, want a sufficient or a very good understanding about how they can push against repeating the same mistakes that we've had time and time again, where we get to that point that we got to a third edition where it's out of control.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like the real answer here is you do the hard work. Like there's no because
Yeah,
there's no silver bullet to this. So you
yeah,
know, in an agile process, okay, which I believe the AOS team uses
mm,
like an agile design process, okay,
mm-hmm,
from my understanding of the thing.
mm,
And in an agile process, you generally there's a ritual at the end of sort of sprints or at the end of various releases and things like that, where you do a sort of inspect and adapt, and you ask the questions:
mm,
what went well, what didn't we understand, what could we have done better, right? Effectively, what worked, what didn't work. There's lots of variations on the exact questions you ask, but they all boil down to sort of a
yeah,
SWOT analysis, right?
right,
And in my mind, my hope would be that they are actually actively engaging in those rituals and doing those things so
mm,
that they are learning from where these past mistakes were and then trying to
yeah,
implement the changes into it, because I don't think there is no silver bullet to this, right? There's
mm-hmm,
certainly mistakes they've made that they shouldn't repeat. So like, oh geez, let's not do an incarnate where it's just this thing that's available to
right,
everybody, where it's either so good it ends up in everybody's army, or it's so bad it just
yeah,
never gets played, right? Things like that.
mm,
Um, you know, let's not make sub factions locked to one particular model, because then it
mm,
wildly encourages spam. Because why would you
mm,
take a bonus that only bonuses one unit in your army? Why not have it bonus
right,
everybody in your army, right? So I
yeah,
hope what they're doing here is learning from that. Like if we make things more role based, so instead factions, you know, like we know that they're introducing like infantry and cavalry and all of that kind of stuff, right, or whatever.
mm,
So, um, the you could imagine that those formations incentivize that kind of thing, right? Where
mm-hmm,
a bunch of different units could then fill the role. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
And if you kind of align it with like a type and a role, so like the infantry, whenever they get charged, they can then do this thing or something. I don't know, whatever, right?
yeah, yeah,
You could imagine how there could be many units that could fulfill that, and it won't just be set to one thing, but it sort of helps your formation and fits your overall playstyle. But I just hope they're doing
mm,
that work, right?
right,
So
right on, yeah, exciting.
yeah, I mean, there's Anthony LaSelva said, from my point of view, a veteran since 2015, this seems to be the real second edition, and everything that came before is first. Yeah, well, look, we're following the cycle here. I did a video a long time ago about the cycle of Warhammer products, and basically, here's what
Mm,
happens: release something, okay? It's new. They spend 3 editions sharpening the knife, sharpening the knife, sharpening the knife. It becomes bloated and overcomplicated. You shut it down, you throw it away, you start over. Almost all
yeah,
Warhammer follows that 2 to 3 edition cycle, depending on like sort of the length of time in there. First and second and third, thrown away. Fourth and fifth, which is a long cycle, is 8 years, thrown away. Sixth,
mm,
seventh, eighth, really long cycle, 15 years as the game was dying, thrown away. AOS 1, 2, 3, thrown away. AOS 4. So like
yeah,
if there was ever a Battlestar Galactica, all of this has happened before and all of this will happen again. It has been the
right,
history of Warhammer products, right? I mean, I
mm,
do hope that in some way we can break the cycle here, right? Um, they want to turn the wheel, I want to break the wheel, right? Like that's sort
right,
of where I hope we live. Um, at any rate,
mm.
okay, there we go. That's everything. Hey, but what do you think? What did you think about these new articles? A lot of you out there today. By the way, if I didn't say it at all this whole show. If you haven't hit like yet, hit like. Apologize again for the hotel show. Sorry I have to travel so much for work. It's been crazy recently with my job. So I am sorry everyone, but thank you all for tuning in, for hanging out. It is really deeply appreciated that y'all stick with us. The
Mm.
chat and the conversation today has been excellent. I really, really am liking
Fast
all
and
of this.
Furious.
Yeah, it's fast and furious today. A
Yeah.
lot of people, a lot of opinions. I want to know what you think. Drop it down in the comments below if you haven't already. Share your thoughts. Are you excited? Are you worried? What has you excited? What do you think the risks are? What do you want to see next? hit like, hit subscribe. Supporting the show is easy. Down in the comments, there are links, affiliate links. You can click things, you can buy things. It doesn't cost you any extra money, gives the show a kickback. There's our merch store. If you want to get Tyler's little sprite and show you're part of Team Tyler, get that shirt, you can do that. There's our Patreon down there if you want to chuck in a few bucks for the show and focus on improving your hobby at the same time. And, maybe being not like Tyler and painting. But whatever the case, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Glad we could get everybody in, do this early show. I like doing early shows because it means we get, this is like, we get to bring in people from Europe and the UK. It's a lot more fun. So I hope all of you, I know it's late over there now, so thank you all for sticking around everywhere around the world who tuned in. Thank you so much.
We just need 9 more minutes. 9 minutes. Can you do that? You got 9 minutes. We can make this 1 hour show 2 hours.
It's all good. Thank you, everybody. Very much appreciate you watching. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday. What happened? There we go.